Chapter 1011, Heading to the Battlefield. Young Master Zhou, please enter. The elder in front of the Purple Star Tower stood up and said respectfully. Zhao Feng entered the Purple Star Tower while the other disciples talked amongst themselves. Zhao Feng didn't need to worry about a time limit or a limited number of entries to the Purple Star Tower, so he went straight to the 8th floor, which was suited for sacred lords. Of course, the effect the 8th floor had on Zhao Feng was much stronger than before. Since the 8th floor was a place of cultivation suitable for sacred lords, it accommodated those at the beginning, early, and late stages of the mystic light realm. Now that Zhao Feng's soul had split, his soul intent had fallen to the very bottom level of the mystic light realm, while the power of the purple mist on the 8th floor was generally more suitable for someone at least at the early stages of the mystic light realm. There was a total of 5 futons on the 8th floor, and all of them were empty. Luckily, the Purple Star Tower can increase the rate at which I refine my soul intent. Zhao Feng sat on a random futon. The soul-splitting technique was a soul-refining technique, and the original theory behind this technique was as such: 2 souls would mean twice the cultivation speed, and the 2 souls could then merge together again, increasing one soul intent to another level. However, because the soul that Zhao Feng split off had merged with the Eye of Death, it wouldn't be able to merge back into Zhao Feng's soul anymore. While the original basis of the soul-splitting technique was to refine the soul, in Zhao Feng's hands, it had become a secret clone skill. Zhao Feng circulated the 10,000 divine thoughts technique, which he had cultivated to the maximum, and started to multitask. Only 20% of the God Tribulation lightning in the demigod had remained. Because he had split his soul, a portion of the God Tribulation lightning symbols had also been split up. The God Tribulation lightning was one of Zhao Feng's strongest killing moves. Now that it had been weakened, it had a big effect on Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng split his thoughts up within the dimension of his left eye and started to direct the God Tribulation lightning into his soul. At the same time, Zhao Feng only had a small number of scorched black wood pieces left, and since they had been stored for too long, the power of ancient lightning within them had faded away. Without saying anything else, Zhao Feng circulated his intent and merged the power of ancient lightning into his lightning soul body. Time passed by slowly, and Zhao Feng eventually lasted 10 hours on the 8th floor before getting up and leaving. After returning to his residence, Zhao Feng rested for a while before entering the ancient dream realm. If I want to form a little world of illusions, then it'd be best to make it in the ancient dream realm. Zhao Feng had tasted the sweetness of the little world of wind lightning. Even if he hadn't had an advantage because the Imperial Tombs was an ancient dimension as well, Zhao Feng's little world of wind lightning was much more powerful than normal little worlds. Therefore, it would be best if the little world of illusions was on the same level as the little world of wind lightning. When Zhao Feng was cultivating last time, he analyzed how to form the little world of illusions, and now he could finally do so. The core of the little world of illusions shall be you. A sparkling white crystal pearl appeared in Zhao Feng's hand. It seemed to contain infinity, and it radiated an alluring power. Zhao Feng had obtained this god crystal in the Black Wind Canyon Forbidden Ground. The energy contained within it had been partially used up, but even if there was only 50% of its energy remaining, it was still a treasure to Zhao Feng. God crystals were something that only true gods could create. Huang. A purple mist appeared around Zhao Feng within the ancient dream realm. There were different structures within it, such as a palace, a castle, a fountain, and more. Above the maze palace, there were dark clouds and booming lightning. Zhao Feng's little world of illusions would be extremely condensed in the outside world, but it was transparent in the ancient dream realm. Wang. Zhao Feng first carefully put the god crystal within it, then he picked out a dark black inkstone that gave off a stunning amount of mental energy from among the other treasures he had obtained in the Black Wind Canyon Forbidden Ground. Zhao Feng didn't know what this stone was, but he could sense that there was nothing wrong with it. Zhao Feng put this black inkstone next to the god crystal. He didn't even know the names of many of the treasures he had obtained in the Black Wind Canyon Forbidden Ground, but Zhao Feng didn't dare to take them out in front of anyone and learn their value, so he could only leave them there for now. Like this, Zhao Feng kept on going back and forth to Sacred Lord Star Demon's private hall in the Purple Star Tower. Zhao Feng's soul strength and knowledge both started to increase, and the creation of his little world was also progressing. More than a month later, Zhao Feng had cultivated the soul recovery divine technique to the peak 8th level, but the structure of his little world of illusions hadn't been completed yet. Creating a little world was a very complex process. Zhao Feng had spent a year and a half to create his little world of wind lightning. Zhao Feng estimated that he would need at least one more year to create his little world of illusions. Zhao Feng's consciousness suddenly moved. Great! Zhao Wang has infiltrated the Darkness Ghost clan. Although Zhao Feng and Zhao Wang were several provinces apart, they could still contact one another. Zhao Wang could even send some images to Zhao Feng. A soul clone was much better than a dark heart seal slave in every respect. At this moment in time, Zhao Wang had become an inner disciple of the Darkness Ghost clan by relying on his shocking talent. The Darkness Ghost clan was an important 3-star subordinate force of 9 Darkness Palace. Their tests for taking in new disciples was extremely rushed, so Zhao Wang didn't raise any suspicions at all. However, the laws of the clan were extremely cruel and cold-blooded. The clan closed one eye and kept another open. Anything could be done as long as no one was killed. Young Master Zhao, Ji Lan wishes to enter. On this day, Ji Lan's voice sounded from outside Zhao Feng's residence. Zhao Feng pushed open the door. Young Master Zhao, your letter. Ji Lan handed over a letter with a complex expression before retreating away. Zhao Feng was now the Grand Elder of a normal 3-star power and the most important person supporting the current Crown Prince. He was someone that sat on the same level as Sacred Lord Star Demon of the Ji family. She never would have thought that Zhao Feng, who wasn't even a king when they first met, to reach this level so quickly. Ji Lan could only tell herself to put in more effort. After interacting with Zhao Feng, she realized that he never slacked. Even though he had reached such a high level already and was much stronger than those at the same level of cultivation, he still cultivated day and night. Zhao Feng ripped open the letter. Within it was a white piece of paper. Zhao Feng instantly put his soul consciousness into it, and a surge of information appeared within his mind. Information from Old Ying. Zhao Feng was stunned. The battle between the Lord dynasties had been going for 10 months, and while the Great Gan Lord dynasty had summoned the clans to fight for them, that only made the situation even. In this situation, the Crown Prince was sent to the battlefield by the Sacred Emperor and Empress. This was so the Crown Prince could raise the morale of the front line as well as train the Crown Prince's strategic abilities and intelligence. Hee. Excuses. Zhao Feng couldn't help but mock. If the 9th Prince stayed in the Imperial Palace, he would be completely safe. The chances of him becoming the Sacred Emperor would be very high. However, if he was to send to the front lines, accidents could happen. This should have been planned by the other princes and repeated to the Sacred Emperor. Zhao Feng's tone was low. After the 9th Prince was sent out to the battlefield, the other princes asked to go to the front lines so they could protect their country. If the 9th Prince was the only one on the front lines, he might still be pretty safe, but now that the other princes were going to the front lines as well, this war was no longer just between the 2 Lord dynasties, it was also an internal battle within the Great Gan Lord dynasty. The reason Old Ying sent this letter to Zhao Feng was because he wanted Zhao Feng to help the 9th Prince. I also need to train myself through battle. The letter in Zhao Feng's hands turned into ashes. Zhao Feng had killed many people since he started his recultivation, but now that his strength had surpassed his previous life, it was time to go out and train himself. Furthermore, Zhao Feng heard that there were battle points, which could be traded for weapons, spiritual pills, or treasures. On this day, Zhao Feng came to Sacred Lord Star Demon's residence. Something like that happened? Sacred Lord Star Demon had a grim expression. This was obviously bad for the 9th Prince. If Brother Zhao is heading to the front lines, please take a few disciples of the Ji family with you, Sacred Lord Star Demon requested. Most forces were scared to let their peerless geniuses go to the battlefield unless they were like Swan Yuanwen or Yu Tianao, who had unparalleled battle power. It was obvious that Sacred Lord Star Demon trusted Zhao Feng and was willing to hand over the geniuses of the Ji family to Zhao Feng. No problem. Although Zhao Feng found this slightly troublesome, he still agreed. After all, he had stayed at the Ji family for some time, and Sacred Lord Star Demon had taken care of him. Countless precious books had been given to him, as well as the right to enter the Purple Star Tower. Sacred Lord Star Demon had also answered Zhao Feng's questions and helped analyze the soul-splitting technique. Sacred Lord Star Demon treated Zhao Feng like his own disciple, and Zhao Feng had done nothing to repay him yet. The next day, Ji Buye, Ji Lan, Ji Tianming, 3 disciples of the Ji family, waited for Zhao Feng outside the Ji family. These 3 members of the Ji family were very talented, and they were part of the middle upper echelon of the Ji family. They were young and lacked experience and knowledge, so they needed to train themselves. "Listen to my orders from now on," Zhao Feng said. He used his god's eye to leave 3 markings on them in case an accident happened to them. "Understood." The 3 spoke at the same time. Zhao Feng easily stayed on the 8th floor of the Purple Star Tower, meant for sacred lords, during his stay at the Ji family. Almost everyone from the Ji family knew his name. The 3 had no suggestions against Zhao Feng's coldness or controlling tone. They knew that the Grand Elder had given them this chance to learn, and that it was an opportunity to train themselves. Ji Lan's eyes were tough, and she clenched her fists. Zhao Feng had become her goal, and this was the perfect chance to catch up. "Let's go." Zhao Feng took out the flaming chariot that he hadn't used for a long time. Although the flaming chariot wasn't any faster than them, it was more convenient. The flaming chariot could perfectly fit them all, and it was going to be a long journey. The 3 members of the Ji family took turns controlling the flaming chariot, and everyone not controlling the chariot used this long period of time to cultivate or rest. Our destination: the north. Chapter 1012, Familiar Person. On a certain day, a 7-colored light flashed. "Senior Zhou, I cultivate the Chaos Yuan Purple Eye technique, and I don't understand this part." Ji Tianming, who was the youngest of the group, asked Zhao Feng respectfully for help. Ji Tianming was different from Ji Wuye and Ji Lan. This was the first time he had actually interacted with Zhao Feng, so he was the most warm and welcoming. Ji Wuye met Zhao Feng just after the latter's God Eye evolved, and he lost to Zhao Feng in one move from his disintegration ability. As for Ji Lan, she was Zhao Feng's enemy in the divine illusion dimension. "Let me have a look at your technique." Zhao Feng hadn't actually cultivated the technique Ji Tianming was talking about, but over the last couple months, he had stayed in the Ji family and learned some knowledge regarding the Ji family's techniques. With his stunning ability to copy things, in just a short month or 2, his progress was the same as someone else studying for 5 or 6 years. Furthermore, the books that Zhao Feng read were very deep, and he also had Sacred Lord Star Demon helping him, so Zhao Feng could be considered a scholar in terms of soul and eye bloodline techniques. "This is probably because of how you cultivate the purple star eyes." Zhao Feng analyzed this low-leveled skill and was able to find where the problem was. Apart from answering the questions of the 3G family disciples, Zhao Feng would enter a state of seclusion. Many treasures appeared before Zhao Feng in the misty spatial world. Zhao Feng had bought a lot of resources within the Heaven's Legacy City, and they would be enough for him to reach the mystic light realm. Zhao Feng started to circulate his 5-elemental wind lightning technique and absorb the energy of wind, lightning, and fire. Part of his consciousness within the dimension of his left eye directed the power of God Tribulation Lightning into his lightning soul body. The power of God Tribulation Lightning within the demigod had kept decreasing. Zhao Feng would also occasionally enter the ancient dream realm to work on his little world of illusions. The flying chariot soon arrived before a spiritual palace. Zhao Feng revealed his identity and handed over some primal crystal stones to use the teleportation array and go to the next city. "Senior Zhou, the next stop is the Chen province. It's known for its mechanisms masters and blacksmiths," Ji Tianming told Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng understood what he was trying to say. Although Zhao Feng's flying chariot was convenient, it was a bit slow, and they could ask some blacksmiths to increase its attributes. "That's a good idea," Zhao Feng agreed to Ji Tianming's suggestion. The flaming flying chariot was not as useful to Zhao Feng as it was before, mainly due to its speed. It was a long journey from the southern region of the continent to the northern region. No one knew how long it would take if they had to use the flaming flying chariot to fly all the way, which only had the speed of a peak-tier king. Several dozen days later, the flying flaming chariot entered the borders of the Chen province. "We're almost at the spiritual palace," Ji Tianming, who was currently controlling the flaming flying chariot, said. The others, who were in cultivation, opened their eyes. The Great Gonlord dynasty had 18 provinces, and each province had many cities. The most populated places in the cities were large spiritual palaces. One could see many experts in flying spiritual pets around the spiritual palaces. There were even flying items like Zhao Feng's chariot. Su. A black figure flashed by Zhao Feng's flying flaming chariot, and 2 figures followed closely behind. "Emperor Ghost Scales, let's see where you can run to." Just give up already. A white figure and a black figure were chasing from behind. They were both emperors, and the aura that the black figure gave off made the nearby people move aside. Everyone was used to this. No fighting was allowed within the spiritual palace, so there were all types of people, including those who had committed many crimes and those who were escaping capture or confinement. Zhao Feng didn't put this in his eyes, but the words spoken by the middle-aged white-clad person alarmed him. Zhao Feng's eyes changed slightly as he scanned over with his spiritual sense. Stop. Zhao Feng's voice suddenly rang. Wang. A powerful intent descended onto heaven and earth and covered the three figures. The speed of all three instantly slowed down, and Emperor Ghost Scales at the very front felt like he had entered a swamp. Who are you? Why are you interrupting the issues of the divine official gate? The Emperor in black had a grim expression as he looked at Zhao Feng. He was certain that he hadn't met Zhao Feng before. From the looks of it, Zhao Feng's strength was also at the peak Emperor level, on par with himself. What's going on? Emperor Ghost Scales, who was looking ruffled, looked at the golden-haired youth who suddenly interrupted them. He didn't recognize Zhao Feng, but now that Zhao Feng had stopped them, Emperor Ghost Scales would do anything as long as he could live. The expressions of the 3G family disciples also faltered. They didn't expect Zhao Feng to care about this small matter. Let him go, Zhao Feng said. He didn't expect to see someone from the Kang Ocean here. Emperor Ghost Scales was the same King Ghost Scales from the 18 Corners Pirate Sacred Land. Back when Zhao Feng was being pursued by the Emperor of Death and went to the 18 Corners Pirate Sacred Land for help, King Ghost Scales, the Cold Moon Emperor, and the Giant Shark King had helped him block the Emperor of Death. Zhao Feng still hadn't repaid this favor yet. This. Emperor Ghost Scales' expression changed. He didn't expect this young emperor to actually help him. Emperor Ghost Scales only just came to the continent zone and didn't recall meeting anyone. The middle-aged person in white had a grim expression. He didn't expect Emperor Ghost Scales to be so lucky and meet a friend. Furthermore, he seemed to recognize the golden-haired youth a little bit. You're a bit too full of yourself, aren't you? The Emperor in black roared. He could tell that Zhao Feng was not simple since he had such great strength at such a young age, but there were too many people watching. If he let Emperor Ghost Scales leave just like that, all the face of his clan would be lost. While the Divine Official Gate was just a peak 2-star power, their Grand Elder would be able to become a Sacred Lord within 100 years. Come with me. Zhao Feng didn't care about the two emperors and spoke to Emperor Ghost Scales directly. Young master, thank you. Emperor Ghost Scales' expression changed. Although he felt that there was something off, there was nothing else he could do. Besides, Emperor Ghost Scales could feel that this youth in front of him had no enmity with him, and the other three on the flying chariot were all elites as well. Emperor Ghost Scales immediately flew toward Zhao Feng, and the expressions of the two emperors from the Divine Official Gate became ugly. You're courting death. The Emperor in black attacked, causing True Yuan to ripple through space nearby. He could tell that Zhao Feng and the other disciples of the Ji family were unusual, so he didn't attack them. Instead, he punched toward Emperor Ghost Scales. The sky instantly became dark as black beams of light blinked around the black-robed Emperor's fist. How dare you not listen to my warning? Zhao Feng's expression became cold as he released a surge of soul intent and formed a dark purple crystalline spike that shot into the black-robed Emperor's mind, and the symbols of God Tribulation lightning on the spike flashed. Arg! A scream sounded in the soul dimension, and the nearby experts all felt the aura of an emperor being killed. The body of the black-robed emperor fell. S2. The nearby spectating experts all took in cold breaths. The emperor in white robes felt a coldness spreading from the bottom of his feet across his body, and he hiccuped. The black-robed emperor had been instantly killed by Zhao Feng just like that. Emperor Ghost Scales trembled as he looked at Zhao Feng, and he felt that this youth was rather scary. However, he suddenly thought of another youth who was similar to this golden-haired youth. Tell the leader of the Divine Official Gate to apologize to me within 10 days' time. Zhao Feng's tone was cold as he looked at the emperor in white. If these emperors knew what was good for them, Zhao Feng would have let this go. He didn't put a measly peak 2-star power in his eyes. One of the main reasons he killed that person was because Zhao Feng could tell that Emperor Ghost Scales had severe injuries, and many of them were left behind a long time ago. He could tell that Emperor Ghost Scales had been chased for a long time, so he did this to allow King Ghost Scales to let out a breath. The white-robed emperor then started to run away in a rush. King Ghost Scales, we haven't met for a long time. I didn't expect you to come to the continent zone. Zhao Feng looked at Emperor Ghost Scales. You are Zhao Feng? When Emperor Ghost Scales heard those words, he thought about the Kang Ocean. He thought about how this youth attacked as well as his image. Back then, Emperor Ghost Scales was still just a peak-tier king, but he eventually became an emperor within a couple years of reaching the continent. Emperor Ghost Scales then followed Zhao Feng and entered the spiritual palace. Jivu Ye, I'll leave the task of upgrading the flying flaming chariot to you then. Zhao Feng handed over this task to Jivu Ye, who was the most mature and intelligent of the three. Upgrading the flying flaming chariot would probably require some time, so the three from the Ji family left and entered the spiritual palace to buy whatever they needed. Zhao Feng, thank you. Emperor Ghost Scales had a joyful expression and expressed his thanks to Zhao Feng. Why were they chasing after you? Zhao Feng asked. I found the tomb of a sacred lord by accident when I arrived at the continent. Emperor Ghost Scales sighed as he started to tell his tale. In reality, several other pirate captains had come with Emperor Ghost Scales. They found the tomb of a sacred lord by accident, and while they were fighting for the inheritance, they killed a disciple of the Divine Official Gate. King Ghost Scales and the Divine Official Gate both managed to obtain some stuff from the inheritance, and the Divine Official Gate chased after Emperor Ghost Scales and company until only Emperor Ghost Scales was left alive. This Divine Official Gate. Zhao Feng's expression became grim. He originally thought that Emperor Ghost Scales may have done something wrong and brought this upon himself, but he still decided to help Emperor Ghost Scales first since he owed the latter a favor. Zhao Feng, I can't believe you've accomplished so much in the continent already. Emperor Ghost Scales revealed a joyful expression as awe and admiration flashed through his eyes. He had heard about the miracles of a Zhao Feng in the Crown Prince trial before, but he thought that it was just someone with the same name. As expected, no matter where Zhao Feng went, he was unable to hide his talent. Zhao Feng told Emperor Ghost Scales about the story of his recultivation. Emperor Ghost Scales had just come to the continent, so he didn't have a force behind him and didn't know that Zhao Feng had to recultivate. However, with Emperor Ghost Scales' attitude, it wasn't really suitable for him to join a clan. After learning that Zhao Feng was going to the front lines, he said that he also wanted to follow Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng would obviously not reject this offer. Zhao Feng received Jivu Ye's message 5 days later that the flying flaming chariot had been successfully upgraded. We can get ready to leave now. Chapter 1013, Province Teleportation Array. Zhao Feng and Emperor Ghost Scales passed through the crowded spiritual palace and soon arrived at a magnificent forging hall. The instant they arrived, they saw an enormous black and white metallic warship. It almost took up the entire hall, and it was covered in an unusual array. The structure of the array lines on it was extremely similar to that of the Heaven's Legacy race. Zhao Feng was able to see through this black and white warship with his left eye, and he realized that many aspects of the ship had been added on after it was first constructed. Looks like Jivu Ye's management skills aren't too bad. Zhao Feng could tell how skilled this blacksmith array grandmaster was from this product alone. Probably only 3-star superpowers would be able to use such a flying warship. Emperor Ghost Scales sighed with awe. Who knew how many times better this warship was compared to the one he used to own? After being a pirate for several hundred years, Emperor Ghost Scales had a unique passion for ships. Emperor Ghost Scales and Zhao Feng entered a side plaza. The interior of this plaza had its own dimension, and while it seemed very small, it was very big on the inside. Senior Zhao, I have upgraded the flying chariot as you commanded. Jivu Ye went forward. The other 2 disciples of the Ji family were present as well, and they had joyful expressions as they surrounded the new flying flaming chariot. Zhao Feng walked forward and inspected the newly upgraded flying flaming chariot. According to your requirements, this flying chariot from the Heaven's Legacy race has been strengthened in every respect, and it has now reached the level of a peak emperor, a blacksmith array grandmaster introduced with a faint smile as he stood next to the flying chariot. These guests were all young and were already emperors. For them to also have a complete item from the Heaven's Legacy race, they were definitely not simple. Zhao Feng saw that the flying chariot was very different from before. Firstly, the size of the flying chariot had increased, so it could fit more people. Secondly, some of the mechanisms on the back of the flying chariot had been perfected, and a pair of wings had also been added to the side of the flying chariot, increasing its agility. If you have any more substandard god crystals, you can put 2 onto the wings and increase the speed of the flying chariot to the level of a sacred lord. The blacksmith array grandmaster added. He obviously noticed the substandard god crystals when upgrading this flying chariot, so he made some adaptations with them in mind. Substandard god crystals. Emperor Ghost Scales took in a deep breath. Even sacred lords wouldn't want to use substandard god crystals on a mere flying item. Furthermore, 2 of them had to be used at once. However, from what the blacksmith array grandmaster said, it seemed as if Zhao Feng used substandard god crystals to start the flying flaming chariot anyways. Speed of a sacred lord. Zhao Feng was slightly moved. He didn't expect that the flying chariot would be able to reach such a speed. However, substandard god crystals weren't something to be used casually, so he would need to think about it first. This is the most I can do to this flying chariot. Since this flying chariot is from the Heaven's Legacy race, the price is extremely high, 2 inheritance sacred weapons. Grandmaster Jin told Zhao Feng the price of upgrading this flying chariot. Emperor Ghost Scales had a dazed expression. He and his friends had risked their lives for just 1 inheritance sacred weapon, and now Zhao Feng merely upgrading a flying chariot required 2? Zhao Feng nodded his head. Every aspect of the flying flaming chariot had reached the limit. This price was very reasonable. Right as Zhao Feng was about to pay. Grandmaster Jin, sorry for interrupting you, an old yet powerful voice sounded from outside, and a skinny elder with several members behind him walked into the plaza's dimension. Divine Official Gate. Hatred and anger surged in Emperor Ghost Scales' heart as he looked at the white-robed emperor amongst them. This is the Grand Elder of the Divine Official Gate. Grandmaster Jin faltered. The Grand Elder of the Divine Official Gate had brought many elders and regulators here. Were they going to cause trouble? From Emperor Ghost Scales' expression, he could tell that these guests had offended the Divine Official Gate. Grandmaster Jin sighed and prepared to warn those from the Divine Official Gate. Although the other party was a Grand Elder of a 2-star power and a quasi-sacred lord, this was a spiritual palace and it had the City Lord Palace backing it up, so Grandmaster Jin wasn't scared at all. However, before he could speak, the Grand Elder of the Divine Official Gate spoke and completely dazzled him. Little friend Zhou, this old man is here to apologize to this friend. The skinny elder put his hands together and bowed deeply toward Emperor Ghost Scales. All of you, kneel down. The skinny elder roared. Plop. The other emperors all instantly knelt down on the ground. So, you're the person in charge of the Divine Official Gate? Zhao Feng walked forward with an indifferent expression and looked at this quasi-sacred lord and the other emperors. Zhao Feng. Grandmaster Jin was stunned. No wonder this golden-haired and golden-eyed youth was so familiar. He was Zhao Feng, the one who helped the 9th prince become the crown prince. Little friend Zhou, please calm down. These people from my force don't recognize Mount Tai. I brought them here this time to apologize. You can do whatever you want with them. The skinny elder was extremely obedient. Someone from within the clan had recognized Zhao Feng from the images in the white-robed emperor's memories. Zhao Feng was the Grand Elder of the 3-star Ocean Smoke Pavilion. Apparently, the 10,000 Sacred Clan, the Ghost Fire Clan, and 8-star Tower were all 3-star subordinate forces. The Divine Official Gate, which was only a 2-star power, was nothing in comparison. Apart from that, many reports said that Zhao Feng himself had the ability to kill sacred lords after the end of the Crown Prince trial. Because of all that, the skinny elder could only use such a plan and bring all the members that had once chased after Emperor Ghost Scales over. He believed that Zhao Feng wouldn't be so ruthless and kill all of them. After all, they were still within the spiritual palace. Emperor Ghost Scales, forgive us. We made such grave mistakes because we were blinded by treasure. The members of the Divine Official Gate knelt on the ground and begged Emperor Ghost Scales for forgiveness. Emperor Ghost Scales looked at the emperors kneeling on the ground. He could still remember the arrogant and almighty expressions these people had, but now they were all kneeling in front of him. Emperor Ghost Scales thought about the pirates that had come with him to the continent, and killing intent appeared in his heart. Emperor Ghost Scales, we're willing to hand over the inheritance we obtained the other day and pay for all the fees of upgrading this flying item, the skinny elder immediately said after seeing killing intent flash through Emperor Ghost Scales' eyes. Emperor Ghost Scales and the Divine Official Gate had each obtained 1/2 of the inheritance of the Sacred Lord. Now, the Divine Official Gate had to give Emperor Ghost Scales the half that they had obtained. If you are willing, The Divine Official Gate will now be a subordinate force of the Ocean Smoke Pavilion. Zhao Feng walked forward and said while patting Emperor Ghost's scales. Now that Zhao Feng was supporting the Ninth Prince, killing people in the spiritual palace would leave a bad name for the Ninth Prince. The Divine Official Gate is willing to become a subordinate force of the Ocean Smoke Pavilion. The skinny elder hesitated for a while before gritting his teeth and speaking. Zhao Feng, let's go. Emperor Ghost's scales didn't speak, he just turned around and left. Zhao Feng hadn't just saved him, Zhao Feng even made these people kneel in front of him and admit their wrongdoings. This was something that he couldn't have even thought of in the past. All of this was due to Zhao Feng, so he couldn't cause more trouble for Zhao Feng. You will pay the fee to upgrade the flying transport item. Zhao Feng took away the brand new flying flaming chariot and left this place with Emperor Ghost Scales and the 3 from the Ji family. Grand Elder, how can you agree to Zhao Feng's terms? The white-robed emperor got up after Zhao Feng and company left. Yeah, Grand Elder, Zhao Feng won't dare to kill us in the spiritual palace. Another emperor revealed a disdainful expression. He might not kill you, but what if he cripples you? The skinny elder roared and continued to speak. The Ocean Smoke Pavilion supports the Crown Prince and is expanding rapidly. If the Crown Prince becomes the Sacred Emperor, then the Divine Official Gate is obviously willing to be the Ocean Smoke Pavilion's subordinate force. Humph. I'm sure you all know what is happening between Nine Darkness Palace and Ocean Smoke Pavilion though. If Nine Darkness Palace attacks Zhao Feng and the Ocean Smoke Pavilion, then we will be set free. The skinny elder snickered coldly as he looked at this group of people without brains. The remaining emperors blinked when they heard what the Grand Elder said. Grand Elder has everything thought out. The white-robed emperor revealed a cunning smile. Grandmaster Jin, how much was the fee to upgrade Zhao Feng's flying item? The skinny elder asked. 2 inheritance sacred weapons, Grandmaster Jin replied honestly. What? The skinny elder almost coughed out a mouthful of fresh blood, but the spiritual palace wouldn't trick people. Furthermore, Grandmaster Jin was an extremely famous blacksmith array grandmaster. This brat used so much just to upgrade a flying item? The skinny elder and several emperors finally managed to squeeze together this fee. Whoosh! Zhao Feng and company sat on the completely new flying flaming chariot and left the spiritual palace with a flash of chaotic 7-colored light. What speed! Ji Tianming exclaimed. This flying flaming chariot could easily carry the 5 of them, and its speed surpassed peak emperors. It was more than twice as fast as before, which dramatically reduced the time of their journey. Maybe we can meet the 9th Prince and Old Ying on the way, Zhao Feng said with a smile. The 9th Prince and Old Ying had left a month or 2 earlier than Zhao Feng. With Zhao Feng and company's current speed, they might be able to meet the 9th Prince and company before they arrived at the battlefield. After all, their goal was the same, and the route was roughly the same as well. A month later, the group arrived at the center of the Great Gon Lord dynasty. Senior Zhou, I heard that the spiritual palace within the imperial city of the Gon province has already built a province teleportation array, Ji Tianming said. Oh? A province teleportation array? The province teleportation array could directly pass through several dozen city arrays. The imperial city was located in the Gon province, and it was probably the first to build a province teleportation array. Crossing a province directly should be able to save them about a month's time. Zhao Feng and company arrived at the center of the imperial city. The province teleportation array was built in the very center of the spiritual palace, and it was guarded by the 3-star forces under the Imperials. From the looks of it, we don't have the right to use the province teleportation array. Ji Tianming looked into the distance. Countless guards in black armor floated above a magnificent hall. Each one of them had the cultivation of a half-step king, and some radiated several powerful auras. Let's give this a try. Zhao Feng flied forward, and the others could only follow after him. Please show your identity. This is the province teleportation array. Those that aren't an imperial or part of a peak 3-star power aren't to approach. A black armored guard immediately came forward when he saw Zhao Feng and company arrive. Chapter 1014, Imperial Sky Token. Please show your identity. This is the province teleportation array. Those that aren't an imperial or part of a peak 3-star power aren't to approach. A group of black armored guards immediately came forward when he saw Zhao Feng and company arrive. Zhao Feng and company were slightly surprised. Anyone not part of a peak 3-star power or the Imperials weren't able to use this province teleportation array? Emperor Ghost Scales took in a deep breath. For him, the Imperials and peak 3-star powers were existences at the very top of the continent, something that he could only look at but never touch. We're part of the G family, one of the 8 big families, and this senior is the Grand Elder of the Ocean Smoke Pavilion. Ji Tianming said. One of the 8 big families and Grand Elder Zhao Feng of the Ocean Smoke Pavilion? The eyes of the black armored guard leader twinkled as he sent out some intent. A middle-aged muscular male in black armor appeared in front of the group of people, and an invisible pressure spread through the air. What a powerful body. He's reached the level of a quasi-sacred lord. Emperor Ghost Scales was secretly stunned. He felt extremely pressured just facing this black-armored male. The battle power of this black-armored male might be even higher than the Grand Elder of the Divine Official Gate. What do you want? The muscular black-armored middle-aged male asked. It was obvious that the G family of the 8 big families had quite a bit of power, and Zhao Feng's name was pretty famous as well. We want to use the province teleportation array, Zhao Feng said. Do you have the allowance of the Imperials or a peak 3-star power? The black-armored male asked. Only those with a noble identity from the Imperials were allowed to use the province teleportation array, but there were exceptions, such as those that were given orders. Because if you don't, then you aren't allowed to use the province teleportation array. The black-armored male had a decisive look to him, and the 3 from the G family started to sulk. Zhao Feng thought for a while. This place wasn't too far from the Imperial Palace, but he didn't know many people in the palace. Is this okay? A square golden token with a dragon engraved on it suddenly appeared in Zhao Feng's hand. The dragon's eyes sparkled, and an invisible surge of draconic providence gathered toward him. This was the token that the 9th prince had given Zhao Feng after the Crown Prince trial ended, and he said that it could allow Zhao Feng to enter and exit the Imperial Palace as he wished since the Imperial Palace was currently in a unique situation. Zhao Feng had only taken this token out to give it a try. That's the Imperial Sky token. The black-armored male's expression changed. Senior Zhao actually has an Imperial Sky token? Ji Tianming was stunned. Ji Lan and Ji Vuye also had shocked expressions as they looked at the golden dragon token in Zhao Feng's hand. From the looks of it, this token is much more important than I expected. Zhao Feng could now see how valuable this token was. Since you have the Imperial Sky token, you should have the right to use this array. The black-armored male led Zhao Feng and company into the Great Hall. While they were walking, Ji Tianming told Zhao Feng the history of the Imperial Sky token. Only the Sacred Emperor had the right to distribute Imperial Sky tokens, and they were usually only given to the princes or those with a lot of power. It meant a lot of things. The Imperial Sky token that Zhao Feng had was the 9th prince's, which meant that he symbolized the 9th prince himself. Even if one had an Imperial Sky token, they didn't have the right to use the province teleportation array, but the 9th prince was different. He was now the Crown Prince, meaning that the value of his Imperial Sky token increased by another level. Elder Bing, Zhao Feng has the 9th prince's Imperial Sky token and wishes to use the province teleportation array, the black-armored male said in a respectful tone. Aloud, an old voice resounded across the Great Hall. Zhao Feng's eyes twinkled, and he looked in the direction of the room behind the Great Hall where an elder was sitting down. Come with me to write down a record, the black-armored male said. Anyone that didn't belong to the Imperials or a peak 3-star power and had to use a different method had to leave a record. Only by writing the record and paying a large number of peak-grade primal crystal stones would Zhao Feng and company be allowed to use this array. Wang Wang tilde. White light started to flash around the ancient and large array stage. Countless silver ray lines started to extend across the stage, and a flash of white light covered the group of people as they started to fade away. At the same time, in a large city in another part of Feng province, Wang, Zhao Feng and company appeared on an older A stage. The moment they appeared, Emperor Ghost Scales and those from the Ji family felt uncomfortable and almost fell to the ground. The loss of pressure and the sensation caused by the spatial disturbance from the province teleportation array was too big. Even Zhao Feng felt slightly uncomfortable. Everyone appeared in the spiritual palace of a large city, and the array stage below them was one used for normal teleportations. Looks like the province teleportation array only goes one way, Ji Vuye said in a low tone. This meant that, While province teleportation arrays could connect to the normal teleportation arrays in the other provinces, the other teleportation arrays couldn't return to the province teleportation array in the Imperial City. Feng Province. Zhao Feng murmured these two words. This was the territory of the Duanmu family. Although the Duanmu family disliked Zhao Feng, they couldn't stop Zhao Feng from using the array here. Zhao Yufei was still being kept in the dark about the marriage situation, but Zhao Feng believed that the Duanmu family wouldn't be able to hide it for very long. Let's go. The group of people sat on the flying flaming chariot and left behind a trail of 7 colored fumes as they left at a very fast speed. Before they left the spiritual palace, Zhao Feng's left arm shook slightly and left behind a marking with the misty spatial world. In reality, Zhao Feng would do this when he arrived at each province. This meant that he wouldn't need to use the teleportation arrays in the future since he could just use the misty spatial world instead to pass through each province. However, with Zhao Feng's current strength, it would be a bit difficult for him to pass directly to another province, especially if he had others with him. Since they used the province teleportation array to head toward the front lines, the time they needed to reach their destination was heavily reduced. Adding on the fact that the flying flaming chariot was traveling at max speed, they would be able to reach their destination within 3 months. Everyone started to become excited for some reason. The others had all improved a lot under Zhao Feng's guidance. Amongst them, Emperor Ghost Scales had improved the most. He originally obtained the inheritance sacred weapon from the tomb of that sacred lord, whereas the divine official gate obtained the skills and secret techniques. However, Emperor Ghost Scales now had both of them. Adding on the fact that Zhao Feng had given him some cultivation resources, Emperor Ghost Scales could already unleash half of the inheritance sacred weapon's power, and his battle power had increased dramatically. Zhao Feng's figure suddenly appeared in the misty spatial world alongside a pile of scorched wood and branches. He had been forming his little world of illusions within the ancient dream realm and Metastorm. My luck is pretty good. Zhao Feng revealed a joyful expression. The power of God Tribulation lightning within the demigod's head had almost been completely used up, but luckily, Zhao Feng now had another source of lightning, the ancient lightning from the ancient dream realm. However, the weather in the ancient dream realm changed randomly, and he could only depend on luck to meet a storm. In addition, the power of ancient lightning couldn't be preserved for a very long time. Without saying anything else, Zhao Feng sat down and started to direct the power of the ancient lightning within the scorched wood into his lightning soul body. We're almost there. Ji Lan, who was currently controlling the flying flaming chariot, looked into the distance. They were less than 1 province away from the front lines of the battlefield. Whoosh! At a certain moment, the aura of a quasi-sacred lord appeared from above. The newcomer was a middle-aged person wearing purple robes. He glanced down toward the group of people in the flying flaming chariot and slowed down, but he didn't stay for too long before leaving. Their group soon met a large flying spiritual pet. 3 males with cold gazes stood on it, and 2 of them were quasi-sacred lords. One of them had red hair, and he revealed a weird expression when he noticed the flying flaming chariot. There were only 4 people aboard the flying flaming chariot, and all of them were only at the level of a peak emperor at most. However, the speed of this flying chariot was much faster than their spiritual pet. Everyone knew that the price of a flying machine was much higher than a flying spiritual pet because a flying machine could fit more people and required less power. It also didn't need to rest, so large flying machines were extremely precious. Boss, should we take action against them? One of the males revealed a gruesome expression and laughed. Zhao Feng suddenly appeared within the flying flaming chariot, and his faint golden hair blew with the wind while his golden left eye looked extremely mysterious. Don't cause too much trouble. There are too many hidden experts here. The red-haired male became wary when he saw Zhao Feng appear out of nowhere and shook his head. His experience and instinct had accumulated after several hundred years of walking on the tip of a knife, and it told him that this youth was definitely not simple. Who? The large spiritual pet started to slowly fly away. On top of the flying flaming chariot. This place looks really chaotic. Emperor Ghost Scales licked his lips as excitement flashed through his eyes. This place reminded him of the days when he was a pirate. In front of us is the spiritual palace. Their group arrived before a noisy and chaotic hall. Before they even got close, they saw 2 forces fighting against each another. The weakest one was a domain-level king. This place isn't merely chaotic. Zhao Feng gave a look around and saw that there were many fierce and evil-looking people within the shops. One didn't need to pay an entrance fee, and there were no limitations on flying pets or machines. One could say that this was a spiritual palace with no one in control of it. The instant Zhao Feng's flying flaming chariot arrived, many greedy gazes were attracted to it. Whoosh! 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 Several figures slowly flew toward them from the front. Sigh, I didn't think that the teleportation array here would be broken. That's normal. The teleportation arrays near the battlefield are used very frequently. Let's go to the spiritual palace in Duhai City next time. The three shook their heads and sighed as they admitted their defeat. Senior Zhou, the teleportation array here is broken. Why don't we just fly over? Ji Lan slowed down the flying flaming chariot. Since the flying flaming chariot was very fast, they didn't need much time to head to the battlefield. Zhao Feng gazed toward the teleportation hall in front. The doors were closed, and there were many guards around. From the looks of it, all the forces belonging to the city lord were concentrated in the teleportation hall. Okay. Zhao Feng nodded his head. Just as Jialan was about to turn the flying flaming chariot around. Meow meow. The little thieving cat appeared on Zhao Feng's shoulders and took out the Imperial Sky Token. At this moment, Draconic Providence moved around the Imperial Sky Token, and the faint roar of a dragon could be heard from it. It was very different from the past. Zhao Feng took the Imperial Sky Token and put his spiritual sense into it. A sensation instantly entered his mind. This is not good. Zhao Feng suddenly raised his head, and his golden left eye locked onto the teleportation hall in the distance. Zhao Feng saw through the surface of the spiritual palace and the barrier separating it from the outside world. Old Ying and the Ninth Prince were right there in the spiritual palace. Chapter 1015, Ambush in the Palace. Within the hall where the teleportation array was located, the Ninth Prince and Old Ying were surrounded by 5 people in black clothes. Draconic Providence surrounded the Ninth Prince and increased his battle power to the level of a sacred lord. He held an ancient green sword of lightning and slashed forward, sending a bolt of lightning into the sky. Petty tricks. A male wearing a black mask and holding a dark green dagger sliced gently through the air, and a wicked surge of sacred power crushed the lightning. This isn't good. Old Ying stood behind the Ninth Prince. Blood dripped from his chest, and around them both were the bodies of more than a dozen guards. Although the Ninth Prince's battle power had reached the level of a sacred lord by relying on his draconic providence, he still wasn't a match for this male with a mask. Apart from the male with a mask, the remaining people in black had all reached the level of quasi-sacred lords, and they were ranked around 20th on the assassination rankings of Black Screen Corner. Black and white mystic power raged in the air above the hall as explosions sounded continuously. A large array surrounded the hall and blocked the shockwaves from the fight as well as everything inside it. Sacred Lord Kangchong, you will die here today as well. A skinny male wearing dark gray armor and holding a black spear suddenly thrust out with a spear. Bam! Bam! A blur of black spears stabbed forward in the hall. Sacred Lord Black Shark, who sent you here to assassinate the Ninth Prince? Sacred Lord Kangchong quickly slashed forward with his crystalline white sword, sending beams of white sword light toward the flashes of black spears thrust out by Sacred Lord Black Shark. Sacred Lord Black Shark was a sacred lord who was ranked among the top 10 assassins of Black Screen Corner. He was different from other assassins. Sacred Lord Black Shark was bloodthirsty and finished off his targets with raw power. Stop talking so much nonsense. Sacred Lord Black Shark harumphed in disdain as he stabbed out with his spear, and a ball of black light with a dark aura shook the air as it arrived in front of Sacred Lord Kangchong. Boom. Bam. Sacred Lord Kangchong was sent flying into the array behind himself. Sacred Lord Kangchong. Old Ying's eyes were dim. Their journey here had been safe, but he didn't expect the danger to be hidden until the last moment. The assassins hid themselves here waiting for the Ninth Prince and took control of the entire teleportation hall. All the guards apart from Sacred Lord Kangchong had been killed. An extremely skillful array had been set up around the hall, and it blocked out all the noise and power inside. Those outside probably didn't even know what was happening here. White flowing sword technique. Sacred Lord Kangchong charged forward once more, displaying extremely profound sword intent. At the same time, he merged the projection of his little world into reality. The entire hall seemed to be covered in limitless white light as sword intent shot into the sky. Whoosh! Whoosh! Countless images of white swords followed Sacred Lord Kangchong's momentum and stabbed toward Sacred Lord Black Shark. Break. A wave of chaotic darkness suddenly appeared behind Sacred Lord Black Shark and destroyed all the images of white sword light. The power of Sacred Lord Kangchong's little world projection was also somewhat damaged. Not good, Sacred Lord Kangchong is about to be defeated. Old Ying felt solemn. Sacred Lord Kangchong wasn't a match for Sacred Lord Black Shark, and the ninth prince wouldn't be able to stand very long against the masked male. Old Ying, don't worry. Help is on the way. The ninth prince suddenly revealed a joyful expression. Old Ying faltered for a moment. They had been trapped in here for quite a while now. If there were people coming here to save them, they would have come long ago. He, you're still depending on others to save you? The masked male smiled mockingly. The array around the hall didn't just block all noise and power, it also stopped spiritual senses. Their plan was extremely well thought out. No accidents could happen. The masked male suddenly charged forward, and his dark green dagger glittered with a coldness as it moved silently around the ninth prince. However, at the next moment, boom! The entrance to the hall was blasted open. Several guards in black armor were deformed by the terrifying force. Bam! Zhao Feng smashed straight through the array and charged inside while the members of the Ji family and Emperor Ghost Scale stalled the other black armored guards. Who's there? The black-clad assassins in front of the ninth prince exclaimed. Sacred Lord Black Shark and the masked male also paused for a moment. Zhao Feng! The ninth prince cried out with joy. A moment ago, he felt the existence of his Imperial Sky Token. He had given his Imperial Sky Token to Zhao Feng, and this was why he knew that he was going to be saved. Old Ying had a surprised expression. Why was Zhao Feng here? At the same time, he realized that the array seemed to break very easily from the outside. Humph, since you've come in, you'll have no opportunity to leave. Sacred Lord Black Shark harumphed in anger as he messaged some other people. At the same time, the masked male and the others in black who were surrounding the ninth prince and Old Ying left them behind and charged toward Zhao Feng. They knew Zhao Feng's true strength, but they had one sacred lord and 4 quasi-sacred lords. They would definitely be able to suppress Zhao Feng. Peng. Peng. Boom. Sacred Lord Black Shark suddenly released more power and charged toward Sacred Lord Kangchong in a frenzy, as if he wanted to finish the fight as soon as possible. Zhao Feng, you're also one of the targets of Black Corner Screen. This means that we can finish 2 top 10 targets at the same time. The masked male and the others in black were all very excited. All they needed to do was stall Zhao Feng until Sacred Lord Black Shark finished off Sacred Lord Kangchong. Everything would end soon after that. With just you? Zhao Feng snickered as a intense started to shoot out from his left eye. Forbidden Illusion Lost World. A surge of soul power from his lightning soul body entered his left eye. Zhao Feng's left eye then turned into a world of limitless purple and gold, and it radiated an extremely alluring sensation. Wang. The 5 in front of Zhao Feng instinctively looked toward Zhao Feng's eye, and in the next instant, they lost control of their consciousness and started to struggle. The masked male retreated several dozen steps and completely circulated his soul intent, but the 4 quasi-sacred lords tried to struggle for a short while before losing all light in their eyes and becoming unable to move. This. The masked male steadied himself as an incredulous expression appeared on his face. Although he had retreated quickly to escape the range of Zhao Feng's eye bloodline technique, the illusion still had a very big effect on him. On top of that, the 4 quasi-sacred lords were acting like they were brain-dead, and they just stood there. How is this possible? The masked male's soul shook. One had to know that the quasi-sacred lords that came with them were all super assassins from Black Corner Screen. They weren't any weaker than the quasi-sacred lords that took part in the Crown Prince trial. However, one glance from Zhao Feng instantly defeated them. Black Shark, faster. The masked male revealed an angry and surprised expression as he messaged. You bunch of trash. Sacred Lord Black Shark harumphed in anger. He had obviously seen what was happening as well. Zhao Feng had become much stronger than when he was in the Crown Prince trial. They had no intel about these powerful illusions that Zhao Feng had. Although Sacred Lord Black Shark was much stronger than Sacred Lord Kangchong, it would be very hard to defeat him quickly. So strong. Sacred Lord Kangchong revealed a joyful expression as he circulated his sacred power at full strength in order to stall Sacred Lord Black Shark for a while longer. Zhao Feng has become even stronger. Old Ying revealed a faint smile. From the looks of it, they were saved indeed. Wang! 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 Zhao Feng circulated the sacred lightning body and became taller. Lightning covered his body as he charged forward with a terrifying force of lightning. Bam! 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 The four in black were sent flying by Zhao Feng. No one knew if they were alive or dead. Twilight dark shadow. The masked male slashed out with a dark green dagger, and layers of dark green light sliced toward Zhao Feng. At the same time, the masked male circulated his soul intent in order to block Zhao Feng's soul-eye bloodline techniques. Wang whoosh! Whoosh! A pair of scarlet wings expanded behind Zhao Feng's back. The masked male was very strong. Zhao Feng didn't dare to block his attacks head-on since his sacred lightning body hadn't broken through to the 6th level yet. Whoosh! Zhao Feng left behind a trail of lightning in the sky as he dodged the attack and shot toward the masked male. Whoosh! 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 The masked male started to become half-transparent as he slashed out a few more beams of dark green light before trying to escape. However, a cold intent suddenly appeared from behind him. Meow meow. A shadow-like dagger stabbed into the masked male's back. What? Shadow kill Imperial dagger? The masked male revealed a stunned expression. Shadow kill Imperial daggers countered the sacred bodies of Mystic Light Realm sacred lords to a certain degree. As he was stunned, a critical sensation suddenly washed over him, and the little thieving cat turned into a streak of gray light that disappeared into the air. Wind lightning eye flame. Womb. A transparent purple and gold fire with countless symbols of God tribulation lightning slammed into the masked male. A ball of destructive lightning fire started to burn the masked male's body and soul. Whoosh. The wings on Zhao Feng's back released a glow of red light that pushed his speed to the limit, and he slammed into the masked male. The entire process was extremely smooth like a stream of flowing water, and it happened within 2 breaths. Boom. 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 Zhao Feng then closed in on the masked male and slammed his fists into the masked male's body. Zhao Feng's fire of wind lightning contained the symbols of God tribulation lightning. At the same time, his sacred lightning body contained the power of ancient lightning, which was also very destructive toward sacred bodies. Boom. Against Zhao Feng's barrage of fierce blows, the masked male was smashed into the ground. The next instant, Zhao Feng flew into the air and charged toward Sacred Lord Black Shark. In a situation as dangerous as this, Zhao Feng definitely wouldn't go easy on the enemy. What a bunch of useless trash. Sacred Lord Black Shark had been completely suppressing Sacred Lord Kangchong. If he had 10 more breaths, he would have won, but his comrades couldn't even stall Zhao Feng for 5 breaths. Great. Sacred Lord Kangchong was overjoyed. Zhao Feng's strength had exceeded his expectations, he actually managed to finish off everyone else so quickly. Humph. Sacred Lord Black Shark revealed a nasty expression as he turned around and chose to escape. The change in tide had been too fast. Based on the strength that Zhao Feng displayed, if Sacred Lord Kangchong teamed up with Zhao Feng, even Sacred Lord Black Shark would be defeated here. Fuck off. Before Sacred Lord Black Shark escaped, he thrust out his spear toward Zhao Feng, and a ball of chaotic light charged toward Zhao Feng like a fierce shark. Stop him. Zhao Feng circulated his eye intent and formed a purple and gold crystalline spike of lightning that stabbed toward Sacred Lord Black Shark. At the same time, Sacred Lord Black Shark's attack landed on Zhao Feng and pushed him back. S2. Sacred Lord Black Shark screamed, and a dark green bracelet on his wrist blinked with a dark green light that reduced the damage he took. Whoosh. Sacred Lord Black Shark turned into a ball of darkness and sped toward the exit. Sacred Lord Kangchong was heavily injured and unable to stop him. Not good. Zhao Feng's expression changed dramatically. Those from the Ji family that had followed him were still outside. If Sacred Lord Black Shark chose to finish them off while he ran, then Jialan, Emperor Ghost Scales, and company, who only had the strength of a peak emperor, would be unable to fight back.